Hello, book nerds. I'm Aubrey,
And I'm Peyton.
and today we are going to journey into the world of Elfhame as we talk about Holly Black's Cruel Prince.
Yes, so join us with a cup of coffee as we dive between these paper sheets. Alongside other book talk faves like Akatar and From Blood and Ash, Cruel Prince is no different. This is actually Aubrey's favorite book
This,
series. So,
this is my everything.
yes, she has read all the books in the series, whereas this is it. I just finished this last week, so this is fresh in my head. I have some predictions which we'll get into later in the episode, but that means we will only be covering the first book in the
Yes.
series because this
Yes.
is as far as I've read. So hopefully we'll be able to cover them all. But yeah.
Yeah, so this is going to be first our non-spoiler section of the video where we're going to talk about just like the intrigue of what the book's kind of about without giving any spoilers, our star ratings, and then we will jump into a spoiler section. All right, so this book follows the best female main character you'll ever meet in your life, Jude Dwart. She is a human, however, the book takes place in Elfhame, which is this world of the Fae that exists alongside our world. So much of this book is about the struggle of her being a human and trying to figure out how to survive in this very cruel world of the Fae. She is desperate to prove herself, and she will do it with any means necessary.
Yes. And the coolest thing about this book is it's kind of set in like present day.
Yeah.
And a lot of times with fantasy books, you're totally thrown into what we feel is the past,
Mm-hmm.
and not in this case.
No.
Like, and this is totally not a spoiler, but like, she literally goes to the real world to buy like tampons.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
And
I
like,
love the realness of this, or like, I mean,
yeah,
it takes place in our world, but like in like the
right,
early like tens. And so it's
yeah.
like my Ugg boots, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like we're getting Ugg boots in our fantasy world. Like this is amazing.
No, yeah, no, that's exactly it. And I love, and then of course, we are opened up with a very like tragic scene in this book,
Yes.
and hence
Mm-hmm.
why life is forever changed. She is a mortal living around fairies, and it's not the fun flirty kind. It is
Mm-hmm.
cutthroat, it is scary, and it is all about survival. And so it is interesting to see a young girl being raised up into this society, but also going back to where she's from to buy things like
Mm-hmm.
tampons and see, but also like not fitting into that world anymore. So oh my god,
Mm-hmm.
it was so much fun to read and to go back and forth when they would visit the mortal world. I'd be like, or our world, it'd be so exciting. Like, oh, like what's she gonna see? And she's like, this is weird, but like I'm supposed to be like you, but I'm not, and but I'm not like them, and it's like this in between. She lives in this in between.
Yeah, so she lives primarily in Elfhame with her adopted father of sorts, who is the general of this like the fairy government system. And he is a red cap, which, if you don't have your Irish mythology to the top notch, that means that he's like a very brutal fae. Like all of the fae in Holly Black's world are meaner and not dangerous to be around. Red
Yeah.
caps are even more so. It's all about blood and killing, and that is her primary parental figure that she sees for most of her life, which is, you can imagine what that does to a girl's psyche. And she's with her twin sister, Taryn. Um, and basically, they're told that since they are humans living in the Fae world, that there's only two ways to survive once they get older and they're no longer under Maddox or the adopted father's protection. They need to marry a fae, or they need to kind of earn their spot among them. And so Taryn's plan is to be a trophy wife. She is excited. She wants to be a trophy wife. You can see in the interactions she is seeking out and trying to find a husband to stay in this world. Jude, on the other hand, my girl wants to become a fairy knight. She wants to try to like be this like, you know, kind of like her adopted father, like Maddox. And it's just like this very interesting thing because obviously she has like she's not a fae, she's human, and so she's like at such a high disadvantage. But she's like, no, this is who I'm going to be. Like, my dad is the general. I've been trained how to sword fight all my life. And like the dad's like, oh, you can't kill anyone. Like, you couldn't be a knight. And she's like, yes, I can.
I love seeing it. And also, since Taryn is her twin sister, it is so funny to see them. They're basically the same person. Right?
Yeah.
They have all their first steps at the same time, and yet it is so cool to see the different personalities. And Taryn's more complacent, where Jude's like, fine, like, I'm bullied in this world. Everyone hates mortals, but guess what? Like, I'm going to be just like Maddox, my adoptive father, and like rule this shit. Whereas like in faerie, humans are like slaves. So like it's not an easy task to do what Jude's trying to do. And may I say, of course, this book is about her, and it is quite a badass adventure. We love this book. I love this book. Obviously, this is Robert. Oh my god, I was called you Robert. Oh my god. I need to pause. I can't even call that if I wanted to. You should be blessed. What do you think about where it was? It totally got me off guard. I was like, Robert. I like couldn't even save it if I wanted to. Okay. I'll just cut out whatever I just said. Do you want to jump into star ratings?
I want to talk about. Just want to mention really quickly the prose.
Okay, cool.
Because that's beautiful.
Okay. Yes, so this book is amazing, but along with Taryn and Jude and the sisters, we have some villains in this book.
Yes, our kind of main antagonist is none other than the Cruel Prince, Carden Greenbrier. He he's one of the sons of the High King, and he is in her age group. It's kind of weird in faerie because there's not a lot of kids, but they like are kind of all homeschooled ish together. And he's a dick. He is mean to Jude, and he is like a main adversary to her. And so it's so fun to just like watch her deal with this asshole.
Yeah, and you know, it is really funny because she is the adoptive daughter of this like red cap general. She's kind of in the higher society, but still is treated like crap. So yeah, you know,
she has protections, but she's not safe.
Exactly. And oh my god, they're so mean to her. And so yeah, you definitely see that in this book. Very exciting.
I love seeing the videos of people going in and they think it's going to be a romance story, like the whole time. And they're like, when the Cruel Prince is actually cruel, and they're like crying over it, and they're like, no, like this is like not a romance for Jude. He's an asshole.
Yeah, I think it was kind of a refreshing take because a lot of times, even though we have a strong female lead, they usually end up kind of still falling to the graces of, you know, the strong prince or whatever, even if it's an enemies to lovers thing. But Jude's just like I don't fucking care.
Yeah.
Like,
Jude is top bitch material.
yeah, she's like, whatever. Like, I don't need anyone. And I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, let's talk about some prose in the language of this book because Aubrey loves it.
I am obsessed. Holly Black's writing style is like honestly one of my favorites ever that I've read. Because this is so beautifully written. Like this is just like master work. It is in first person, which I think is like harder to have it be like super prosy because usually that shit's in third person, which is when it's like Jude did this, but this is the like I throughout the story. And it's just like it is the level where it is so beautifully written. However, there I don't think that there's any barriers between you and Jude. And so we've like complained in the past when a book is really well written that sometimes then you're kind of taken out of the story a bit because you're watching the art of the writing going on more than the story. And I didn't get that with this. I was obsessed with the writing. I'm obsessed with the story being told, but I feel like I'm still fully like engrossed in the work. And like I don't know how Holly Black does it, but it's amazing.
Yeah, it's really hard to find books like that because sometimes I do like third person better because of that. But you're right. I can think of at least 3 books right now where I'm like, oh, yeah, but like I felt so disconnected. I didn't feel connected to any of the characters. And it made it much harder to read. And we see that a lot with like science fiction too. It's just like, oh, like this is so beautiful and I love this book. But wow, this is challenging to read. So the fact that Holly Black was able to take this in first person and totally make us connect with Jude is just like, wow, like amazing.
And she just paints like the fae and like her version of the fae is very unlike if you've read ACOTAR, this is nothing like ACOTAR. Like this is much more like traditional woodland witchy like actual Irish mythology. I mean, I love the ACOTAR series, but like this is like twisted, fucked up shit for a YA book. Like it's YA, it's not like crazy dark, but it is like it is there. It is like very like woodland and twisted and like briars and branches on the cover.
Yes. Well, also with that being said, like a lot of times if I see something's YA, I'll be turned off a little bit because I feel like it's never really going to go over those boundaries because I always feel like they're trying to keep it PG-13 to a sense, and I feel like when you put that cap on it, sometimes you can't have the freedoms to like really jump into it. But this book is the perfect balance between the two. It's not too much where I could give this to a high schooler or middle schooler and be like, oh, it's fine. Like, but yeah, oh, it's so good. You must read it. Let's do some star ratings. Aubrey, I'm pretty sure I know what yours is.
This is a 5-star. This is 5 stars. It is beautiful. It is engaging. Jude is the best person in the world. You're gonna want to fuck everyone in the series. There's nothing bad that I could say about this book.
Yeah, so obviously Aubrey has like a whole lineup and she knows what happens and she has her like loves. This is the first book in the series. Literally this is going to be a 5-star series for me. I know it, but right now I'm going to give it a 4.5 because I'm giving it time to fully grasp me. And I know this is possible because this is how ACOTAR was, and I get to the second book and all of a sudden I'm obsessed and it's my favorite book series. So come back for our next review and see me just fangirl.
You gotta get like once I got this book is split into 2 sections, and once I got to the second section, I read the entire second section in a day. I was just like, this is not like it just went so much like faster and like into the story than I was expecting it to.
Yes. All right, everyone. So we are going to shift gears, jump into our spoiler section of this episode. We are very excited, but if you have not read The Cruel Prince yet, please go away.
Now is your time.
This book is so good, and there's so much good in the book, and I want you to be surprised, and I don't want any spoilers. So please leave, come back once you finish the book, and we will see you here. Okay, bye. All right, let's move on. I want to go
Yes.
back into the topic of this world we're in. We talked about how we're in this fairy world and the real world at the same time, and I think it's fun. And I talked about how I think it's funny she goes and buys tampons because no one really has periods in Elfhame. But the first chapter of the book after the prologue, which we're about to get into, which I'm very excited to because I skirted over it in the non-spoiler section, is the first chapter is a one-sentence log. And it says, in faerie, there are no fish sticks, no ketchup, no television. And as a kid, when I think about my childhood, those three things are very, I had fish sticks with ketchup while watching TV. And that is such a little kid thing. And I just think it was so fun for Holly Black to kind of like, hey, you just saw and read a horrible prologue. But yeah, by the way, it's not going to be fun.
Yeah, like
Nothing's fun about this.
It sets you up so well. Like, this is what happens, and like we know all of the context for like what that must have been like because we know what that was for us.
Yeah. And for a fantasy book, I think this is a very cool way to get the reader intrigued by doing something, because this is funny, but it's also very like artsy in a way.
Yeah.
To have like one chapter that's kind of like one sentence. I don't know. I thought it was fun. But yeah, so with that being said, there are no fish sticks and no ketchup and no television because her parents were brutally murdered
In
front of her and her two sisters by Maddox, her adopted father.
Oh my gosh, like she's not, we tried to skirt over it because even though it's the prologue, like it's just such a crazy thing to read and you just want to experience it naturally. Just like the idea that not only is she being raised in this like fucked up fae world, but she's also being raised by her parents' murderer that she watched happen. Like, oh, what? That's so crazy.
It is so crazy. And then years later, of course, the book takes place as, you know, that's why we get kind of, she's been hardened, calloused a little bit. Her Jude is as a person. I mean, she is our anti-hero of the book. She's super morally gray. And obviously she saw her parents get murdered in front of her face. But it's also really interesting to see the relationship form between her and Maddox and her sisters, because she also does look to him as a father. And you do see love there in a weird way. And it could be like a Stockholm syndrome, kind of like sympathizing with your abuser in a way. But yeah, it's such a weird family.
Maddox, in his own way, also loves the girls.
Yeah.
And he was like, you were my wife's kids. Like, you're like my kids-ish, even though it was, weird, messy, and layers, and so complicated. And I love how, like, her relationship specifically with Maddox is what shapes so much of who she is in a way where it doesn't fully shape Taryn. Like, you can see such big differences, but like Jude is Maddox's daughter. Like, you can see it in the way she schemes. You can see it in her like views on killing. Because my girl is a killer. And like she just, that's something that I love, is that she doesn't have like really guilt about the things that she does. She's like, no, this is what I need to do. How can I keep doing this? How can I poison myself a little bit every day so that way I can get to a point where I can poison both me and my dad's cups? Like that scene right there. Like, how did you know which one I was gonna take? I didn't. I poisoned them both. Like, that is my girl right there.
It's just so freaking cool. And it is funny because it's like, she is her father's daughter. And I love that one scene when she does poison them, and it's kind of like she's beating him at his own game.
Yeah.
And in some ways revenge, and yeah, she's just become such a hard personality. And a quote that I picked out just to kind of like show this was when Jude says, "What they don't realize is this. Yes, they frighten me, but I have always been scared since the day I got here. I was raised by the man who murdered my parents, reared in a land of monsters. I live with that fear. Let it settle into my bones and I ignore it. If I didn't pretend not to be scared, I would hide and scream until there was nothing left of me. I refuse to do that. I will not do that." So we see that with Tara, and she's like, "I'm be complacent. I need to survive, and the way I'm going to survive is to become a wife and fit into the society." Where Jude's like, "Fuck that.
Fuck that. Yeah.
I'm gonna be badass, and I'm gonna poison myself and kill people and do really cool stuff," which we're about to get into. But I just love that quote because it's kind of like her motto. That's like, I do this because I am scared, and I was scared since the day I got here. And I just think it's like that honesty that like she's this is the difference, and this is why I love Jude, and I think this is why everyone loves Jude. You take these fantasy book main lead girls, women, and they don't know the power they have.
Yeah.
Until they do something cool in a one chapter, and we're like, "Oh my god, she's powers." Jude doesn't have powers, and she knows. But the thing is, Jude knows. Like, there is no like, "Oh, well, I need to train to become better and use my power." She's like, "No, I got it. Watch this."
No.
And then she like, she knows her worth. She knows her worth.
She knows her worth, and she knows how to make do with what she's got. Like, I feel like in so many fantasy books, like you said, like the main character is like the chosen one with the badass powers, which I mean, obviously I love, but I feel like there's also always a scene where she's like, where like the main character's like, "Oh, I have all these powers and I don't know what to do. I don't know if I can control myself. I'm so scared. I'm so like they need like pep talked into it, and they're like scared of their own actions." And Jude is the complete fucking opposite. She's like, "I'm gonna lie, scheme, murder. I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I poison my way to get whatever the fuck I want. And I do not care, and I am not going to think back and be guilty. I'm not gonna wallow in my feelings. I am going to get shit done."
Yes. And this is why Jude is literally the best female lead. It's just she's so freaking cool. And we see this we talked about our cruel prince, none other than Prince Carden and his friends. So they suck. I was not, for me, I had no idea. I had nothing. This is fun for me because I knew nothing about this book going into it. I knew nothing. I really thought that Carden would end up being mean to her at first, but then like act like he was being mean. No, he was just mean.
He was mean. He is mean.
He just is a mean person.
Yeah. I love how she just takes these like characters in this world and she's like, "No, this world is mean. Our main character is mean. Our main, antagonist / kind of love interest, but not really at all, is mean, and you're not expecting it. You're like, when is he gonna turn into Reese? And he won't.
No, he just doesn't. And my man has a tail. He has a secret tail.
Yeah.
Dude, when I don't know what the exact quote is, and I'm gonna get it wrong, but the way that Jude described his tail was like a naked cat, like a hairless cat with like a little like hair on the. I was like, ugh, like I got the ick. I was like, wait, that's really cool. He has his tail. But then when she first sees his tail, I was like,
I love the tail. And in the next series, one of the main characters has hooves, and everyone's like, "Why do you gotta put hooves and tails into these characters, Holly Black? Like, take it back, we can't stand it, it's the ick." And I'm like, no, this is like fantasy fun. I was like, yeah, give me the fucking tail, give me the hooves. Like,
I loved it.
Add a little spice to this story here.
Oh, yeah, it was so funny when she describes his tail, and Holly references his tail like literally like 5 or 6 times
Yeah.
in the book. I'm like,
She
what?
wants you to
It took
know.
me to the third time to be like, oh wait, Carden has a tail, and he like hides it. I'm like, does he hide it like his pants? Like, oh, it's so funny. But yeah, his friends suck. There's that scene where
Yeah.
Taryn and Jude are down by the lake river,
Mm-hmm.
and they basically bully the crap out of them and try to push them in, and obviously
Almost
there's
kill
things
them.
there that, yeah, they almost kill them. Yeah, so that's weird. But with that, we are introduced to Locke, which
Yes.
is perceived to be Jude's love interest, and he sort of protects her to an extent. But I've seen this story one too many times to know that he definitely would never be endgame for Jude. Because
Yeah.
then we later find out that that is who Taryn is going to marry.
And it
So
was just a
that
story. It was just like it was just a game.
it was a game, and
And
he got played a
that's
little bit.
I love the scene when they're at the ball dancing and Locke's like would you cry if I hurt you? And she's like, "No, I would hurt you back." And Locke's like, "Wait a minute. This isn't part of my narrative. This isn't part of the fun little story I'm trying to tell
Yeah.
here. Like this isn't what's supposed to be happening." But it's just so good.
Yeah, so I
I
hope he
I'm
dies. I really do.
oh my god. Yeah, cuz a lot of these friends, well, except for one, um are still around at the end.
Yeah, honestly, we can talk about that quick, because the fact that this motherfucker came through her window at night to try to kill her, and then Jude's like, stop, and kill, and then she like rolls him up underneath her bed.
Yeah.
he's, he's just dead body like vibing underneath her bed. Oh, I think that was so funny. She didn't even think twice about it. She
No,
struggled to kill him, but she just like, she like slit his
she was
throat or
like
something.
annoyed by the process. It was like,
Yeah, she's
oh, what
like,
an inconvenience you are.
it's just such an inconvenience right now. Like, are you kidding me? But I love that she like carries the body out, buries him by the Maddox
Yeah,
stables, and like she just
yeah.
does, and then she references it later
Mhm.
to Carden. She's like, well, he's buried by the stable.
Come on, your friend's over there.
Yeah, oh yeah, you haven't seen your friend? Oh, I killed him.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
it's
oh, right. I
I killed him. Well, he was trying to kill me, so like, you know. But with that being said, yeah. 1, Locke sucks. 2, I hope he dies in the next book. 3, his friends suck. 4, when he comes to the window and tries to kill Jude, and then Jude kills him, Jude is waiting for someone called the Ghost. She's waiting because Jude is a mother effing spy. She is a spy. Yes.
I love the whole spy arc and her just being like, I will work with you, Dane, to like prove myself. Like, oh, look at me go, look at how I can be, learn these things in such like a weird way. Joining the
Yeah,
court of shadows.
for her, Prince Dane is her way into acceptance into society. So if she is the spy, then she doesn't need to get married, and she doesn't necessarily need to become a knight. And if she's a spy, maybe Prince Dane will make her a knight. It's like,
Yeah.
it's her way in. And Prince Dane, to me, from the outside, looked like a guy who was just trying to cover his ass and his bases. Would he be the best king? Maybe not, but he's better than his other brothers. Obviously, as we find out as Jude does her spying. But yeah, she becomes a spy, and when this happens, I was just like, yes, like, she has purpose. It's like when your best friend gets like their dream job. Like, yes, like, you deserve this. You worked so hard, and so this is so fun. And we find out that she is to spy on his brother. who
Yes.
Dane feels like is trying to plot something and or kill him.
Wow, big shocker there.
Yes.
Knowing what happens. It's kind of the first time when she's out spying that we also see this other layer to Carden. And she's like there and she's like sneaking around and she steals his copy of Alice in Wonderland, which also, like, can we talk about how perfect it is that because we could have the real world, it could be Alice in Wonderland? Because what is the story of Alice in Wonderland? Normal girl getting plunged into this like weird, wacky, horrific shit. And is that not like Jude's story, you know, in a way?
And it was so fun to see her get so excited about that book because it evokes so many memories. She steals it, and a little note slips out.
Oh my goodness. Jude. I cannot imagine the audiobook of that.
I listened to this part, and oh my god. Like, you know when you're watching a scary movie and the music gets like, with like the screeching violins like really fast and it like the heartbeat stuff. I was like, no, stop saying it. And it was so terrifying. Like, if you had the audiobook or you know someone has the audiobook, just have them scroll to this part and you're just gonna be like, stop. It was so creepy, by the way.
Yeah. Well, it scares Jude.
Yeah, she's like, what the hell? She still steals the book. But yeah, that note was creepy. And while she's there that night, she sees Carden get abused. And so that adds a whole other layer that Aubrey was mentioning before, that we see a different side of our cruel prince and maybe why he's cruel.
Yeah. I mean, he's still like a dick and he still shouldn't be like that. But it adds, it's like you're seeing like, oh, like he's a dick, but he's not just a dick. Like there's
layers.
Additional shit going on with him, and he's not, like, it's almost kind of like this is his family, this is how his family treats him, and so he doesn't know how to treat other people.
Right. Yep. And he is the youngest brother?
Yes.
So obviously that has some emotional baggage as well. He used to live with Prince Dane and then was shipped off to live with Baelkin, the one who we will get
the evil one,
the really evil one, the cruelest of the cruel. So yeah, I mean, you know, you're a product of your environment, and I just feel like you really see that in this book with Carden. Moving on, she does her spying, and it is coronation time. She's wearing a beautiful gown, and the coronation is her moment where finally her life can be sealed. The deal can be sealed, and she can move on and live a happy life in Elfhame. Except, they all die.
Everyone. It, like, that is such, like, I want to see this as a movie because I can see it so clearly in my head, this scene of like the killings, and they're just killing and killing and killing, and like her dad orchestrated the whole thing, like was a part of it and behind it, and then like Jude like crawling under the tables and finding Carden, just like, oh my goodness. And now she has this like power, and she like takes him to the court of shadows, and he, like, for Carden, like, he just saw all of his siblings die. The only reason Carden didn't is because they need to be crowned king or queen. You need to have a bloodline do it.
Yes. And Carden's the last one. So without Carden, Baelkin can't become king. And let me just roll back here a little bit and say, this is one of my most favorite scenes I've ever read in any book. This scene was so freaking baller for Holly Black to do. A whole family, like, they kill themselves because they're like, nope, like I'm not like
Yeah.
what? This is so crazy. Like they kill the dad, and then obviously Dane dies, and
Mm-hmm.
this is so freaking like cool to me that she did this,
Yeah.
and
And
that
it shows the face so good.
yes, and then of course Maddox has not just betrayed her once, but this is the second time in her life where this man has completely ruined her life,
Yeah.
and it's because we
He doesn't
find
even
out
know
that
at this
Maddox
time.
is just so power hungry.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants war. That's his thing. He goes, all I
Yeah.
want is war, and we're never gonna have war with Dane as king. And it's just
It's a
like,
good king.
you are so stupid.
Mm-hmm.
I hate you. That's what she does say. She says it all the time. She goes, I hate you. Like she has so much hate for him, even though he gave her like the sword,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah, it's like,
she duels Taryn, which is hilarious. I don't know. It's great.
and they're like, oh, like she's like, I'm not Juding. I'm sorry. I'm not dueling Taryn over a boy. I'm dueling Taryn because like, how could you let me get treated this like way? Like, how could you pick a boy over your twin?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
so
So,
much,
you know,
so many
that
layers.
whole night, shit goes down.
Yeah.
Unbelievable scene and unbelievable writing. Oh my gosh. So now
Mm-hmm.
this takes me to when we have our motley crew, the Roach, the Ghost. We have
Yes.
Cardin's now like held hostage. Freaking Jude has him like like sealed in a chair, like just locked
Yeah.
in a chair, and she's like, "Have fun," like, and she's giving him no shit, like,
Yeah.
I love it. And then she's like, "I'll be back," and it's so cute because for like, I mean, like the other spies, they for sure are like in my head the kind of like pirates. Like, sure, we're working as a team, but also like I just want what's good. Like, I want what I want out of
Yeah.
this, like gold,
Mhm.
money, power, whatever, freedom, whatever it may be. But it's so funny because Jude will be like, well, this is what we're doing, and you gotta listen to me, and this is my prisoner. And then she's like, I'll be back. And then she walks away. She goes, I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do. Like she acts so like mature and
Yeah.
responsible in front of the group, and then when she turns away, you can see like she's just a young girl, and she's
Yeah.
way in over her head.
Uh-huh.
And it is so funny and just adorable to me that she's just like, this is what we're doing. He's my prisoner. You have to listen to me. And then you can get what you need to get, but I'm in charge. And she walks away and she's like, oh my God. Like, what am I
Oh
gonna
shit.
do?
What am I doing?
Oh,
Yeah. And
shit.
then you have to watch her like kind of now she's just dive so head first into all of this, and she finally gets to play the game and is actually a real player, and she's like, shit, now I gotta do this. I gotta become who I'm pretending to be almost.
Yeah. She really does. She really does
She
live up to
does.
it. Um,
Hmm.
and then so she constructs this final plan that is to be
Hmm.
carried out. Um, Balekin is looking for Cardin. Obviously, he's the last
Yeah.
bloodline that can crown him. So he's
Hmm.
looking for him, and Balekin is set to have his own party / coronation. And Jude and the crew decide that they have this like 5-step plan, a multi-step plan to carry through to make sure that he does not become king. And yes, and this is where we see the Jude mastermind, which is Aubries' favorite part.
Oh my goodness. Yes, because so much is going on and she's like finding bits and pieces, because we've also learned that like the whole time like Maddox was just scheming Balkan as well, because we find out about Oak, who is Jude's little brother, who is actually also an heir to the throne and a member of the Greenbrier line. And so the whole thing that Maddox is scheming is he wants to make Oak king so that way he can rule in his place and wage wars. And this is where I feel like it becomes so interesting with Jude, is because she wants to protect Oak. And like she kind of has this like mindset aligned with Maddox, but she doesn't want to do it his way. And so you can just see her like trying to figure out like where her allegiances are. You get to see the moment where she poisons Maddox, which is so amazing. There's just like so many fucking layers going
There really
on
are.
as she's like trying to like piece together her shit. Ugh.
Yes. So, as we see, and we talked about before, Cardan becomes king, and Oak is the one that crowns him. Cardan did not know this was happening.
No. So she gets Cardan to obey her orders. But
Yes.
Cardan is under the assumption for a year and a day he is under her command. I also like there's the moment where she like figures out that Cardan like is like attracted to her, and she's just like, what is going on? Like that whole scene like it's just like so crazy. But so even the audience, we all think that Cardan is going to crown Oak, and Jude is planning on ruling as regent instead of Maddox, because we know that she's still against Maddox. Like she didn't work with Maddox, so something's going on here. And then she tells to Cardan, now for the next minute you have to stay still.
Yes.
As Oak places the crown on Cardan's head, Cardan is now king, who didn't want it. And she's kind of created this bid for time for Oak to like be rushed off to the human world to be raised as a normal kid. She's just
crazy. Yeah, the fact that she was just like, watch this. And I love the like year and a day thing, because it perfectly sets up the next book.
yes.
Because even though Cardan is now king, he is still has an oath to Jude. And so this is just going to be so fun. We also see them kiss a couple times. And so there's some sort of love thing happening, but also like knowing Jude, I don't know.
The power balance is so strange between them, and that's what I really like, is because they truly are like in broad strokes enemies to lovers, but they're kind of enemies and lovers at the same time. And I know that like the whole time we were saying how usually in fantasy books like the guy like knows more about the world and is the one in control, and the girl's getting betrayed by the guy. How many times have we seen that plot where the guy knows more, is more powerful, and betrays her? And the roles are totally reversed with this relationship. Like Cardan is not the bitch. Judas.
Yeah, I love it. I think this is so fun, and I think it sets up the next book great. Now, Aubrey knows what happens because she has read them. But the way that this book ends is different. It doesn't end on this like thrilling love plotline. No. It ends with Oak being in the human world, safe, which is important, and it ends with Cardan on a throne with like I don't know if he's wearing a shirt or like a mug or a sign that says like "I rule," and it's that power thing where you're like, ooh, like where is this going? So I have like slight predictions not necessarily as far as the plot line goes, but as far as characters go. Okay. I think Locke and Taryn are not going to end up together. I think Locke is going to be killed, maybe by Taryn. I think that Cardan and Jude are endgame, but I think that it is going to be a book-long plus battle. It's going to be a very slow thing because Jude's a very strong, when I mean independent, very independent woman
Yes.
who
Yes.
also is in charge of Cardan. And even though Cardan has the power now, kind of, and also is king, and he, in terms of fantasy, he is the guy that knows the world best. He is still a bad person. He's not a good person. And I think
he's not a good king.
I think that they are going to like be each other's worst enemies, but like help each other in a way. Jude is going to give Cardan a heart, and Cardan is going to give Jude love, maybe? Like actual love? I don't know. Because I want them to be together because I do think there's good in Cardan. I just think that he just needs to get the wicked cruelness out of him. And I think Jude is going to be the one to do that. But I think because he is hurt for a year and a day, this next book is going to take place over that time period, and we are going to see that slowly dissolve. And or this would be fun if it's a year and a day, and on a year and a second day, Cardan still stays with Jude. He decides to stay. I think that would be fun. But who knows?
Who knows? Yes, I want to read the last little bit here because it sets up, like we were saying, so perfectly. They're at the throne, and Cardan actually rises up from the throne and says, "Come, have a seat," and tries to get Jude to go sit on the throne. And he says, "This is what you wanted, isn't it? What you sacrificed everything for? Go on, it's all yours." Because for a year and a day, Jude has absolute power.
Yes.
Oh my goodness,
that's
my girl.
True. I think like just visualizing that, yeah, it's like what next? I think it sets up the book perfectly. And oh my goodness.
Well, and because like Oak is like what, 6? Like,
yeah, he's so young.
Jude's master plan is to have Cardan be king until Oak is, a teenager or an adult. That's a hell of a lot longer than a year and a day.
Yep. I do think Jude is kind of working like, I'll figure it out next. But like, let's get us all to safety. Let's get this actually just wicked person out of the line for the throne. And who knew that Cardan would be her best chance? And I love that she. And the last thing I have to say is, I just love that she's trying to preserve Oak's, like simple, like childhood, his innocence. Yeah. That's the word. Because hers wasn't.
No.
Because Oak is about the same age she was when her parents were brutally murdered in front of her. Yeah. So she is hopefully in her head doing a service to Oak by taking him away from all this crazy politics and blood. So I love that because it's like Jude really cares about the people she loves. And you see that here. I love it.
Okay, before we end, we didn't mention it during the thing, and I have to say it, like, the best Jude quote ever happens in this book when she says, "If I cannot become better than them, I will become so much worse." And is that not Jude? Is that not Jude?
Yes. All right. So, that is all we have time for today. What do you think of the Cruel Prince? Do you love Jude as much as we love Jude? Do you have any predictions? If you've read the book, do not spoil it for other people. Just send us smiley faces or like those like fire emojis. Like, yeah, Jude,
Send the
right.
daggers.
Yeah, the daggers with the blood. That's our thing. Anyways, let
Yeah.
us know what you want us to review next. But yeah,
All right. Thank you all so much for joining us, and happy reading.